I've got this slope on them, pretty much like the Earth, and that when put into a magnetic field, they process backwards just like the Earth. So his argument is that as we move to the end of this galactic year, whatever it is that changes that the Earth's going to experience, he's gone, which might be a further expansion of it, as it's thought that it might have done in the past. But exactly the same thing will happen to every single bit of our bodies, every single cell in our bodies, which I find quite an interesting idea. But that means that in a way, our kind of galactic alignment really is going to begin at home. But this story we've looked at is really a story of individuals, because we've kind of watched these guys go through from animal cults to the head cult, to the goddess cult, to power gods in charge of their cities, right the way through really to the kind of modern age when nobody seems to believe in anything. And it's said that, it seems to be true, that every single one of you, since you were conceived, has had to live through all these stages of the development of civilization. In order to become a working member of the society in which you find yourself, you have, from the moment of conception, been through all of the archaic and mythical and power god elements of being a human. So history, this thing we've been looking at tonight, is being relived through all of you, through every single human being that's born. It's being redone again and again. It's like the experience is being stacked up. So we're not just looking back at a load of people that we can't know anything about. The very bodies we've got, the minds we've got, the decisions we make, the things we do, the shape of our fingers, everything. It's all down to the decisions that the ancestors made, the people that are doing all of this work. The community is like an extended expression of the individual. But this vast sweep of history, these ancient potters, carvers of stones and mammoth bones, invention of irrigation and tokens and wealth and writing, it's brought us all to where we are today. 6,000 million manifestations of spirit, each of us a child of the earth, herself spinning through the cosmos for thousands of millions of years. And over eons, little subatomic particles got themselves together in the form of particles and found community in particles. And particles got together to make atoms, and atoms got together to make molecules. Molecules got together to make cells. And each level is transcending and including the level that's gone before. Cells join together to make organs. Organs join together to make organisms. And it's my feeling that as this particular change takes place, we're hopefully going to find out what happens when humans find at last community in a greater humanity, in the same way that atoms once found community in molecules.
Question time?
Yes. Yeah, the awakening, or the unravelling, or the revealing, or what have you. I like to think it's like, have you seen these parachutes, high-performance parachutes that guys have now? And when they get close to the ground, they just pull the string, and the thing stalls, and they literally step out of the air. And I think that's what it's going to be like for us. The change is already hitting a load of people crane drivers, lorry drivers, people who aren't even seeking, and literally waking up, just finding themselves, realising that they're part of a cosmic background. But far from being the subject, they're just another object floating in space. This comes as a real surprise to people, but it's going to wash through the whole of humanity. And I like to say that some people are going to experience an apocalypse, Armageddon, whatever, because that's what they're expecting, or what they've been trained to believe. Other people are going to experience the pure, bright white light of a new conception. But everybody's going to end up at the same after-production party. Go, darling, you were marvellous.
Is that what you're going to do on the 21st of December 2012?
Yes. Unfortunately, well, I don't know. Things seem to be getting fast enough for it to actually be a moment, don't they? Most of the specialists, like John Major Jenkins, he believes it's a 250-year kind of thing. December 21st is in the middle of it, because you're aware it's actually an astronomical event that's going to happen on that day, as the winter solstice sun. So just before it rises, the Milky Way will be hanging above the horizon at Izapa in Mexico, where the Mayan calendar was invented, and the winter solstice sun will rise into the dark bulge at the heart of the galaxy, heart of the Milky Way, which is where the Mayan knew we were coming from, and that's their sign for the Galactic New Year, if you like.
I think we should tell them about that. What we had a little chat in the toilets about.
Oh, really?
Sounds a bit deep and a bit. I think we're level here, but which one does the panspermia?
Oh, the panspermia. Yes, this idea was the whole idea is that everything on Earth's got DNA in it. All organic life is driven by the same pattern, really, and that the man who discovered DNA, or did the maths for it, Crick his name was, Crick and Watson, the two guys, he's pretty firmly of the view that we couldn't have come about from just bare organic chemistry on the Earth. What he's saying is that he feels that there was some amplifier or magnifier or some kickstart, and the idea that it's still, I mean, it's still being panned around, and they're now finding critters that can do it, in fact. They're finding creatures that can desiccate themselves, they can just dry out and stay absolutely dried out until they find somewhere where it's worth rehydrating themselves, and then they come back to life again. And this theory that the gentleman's referring to is called directed panspermia. Well, panspermia is the idea that something came on a comet from outer space, and when it hit the kind of warm soup that was the early Earth, it started growing. Directed panspermia is the idea that there's somebody out there who actually sent something to Earth deliberately.
You could look at it in any different ways, but it wiped out the species that were here before us, so it led us to grow or any different things. Give me a microphone, Vic.
Yeah. Oh, you're the mic. I think one thing I think is interesting is why are these ancient cities all on biblical references? Because a lot of the cities you mentioned have all got a biblical reference, so it's interesting to see that they would...
I think the Bible was definitely recording something important.
I don't think we're reading it right, though.
No, I mean, it's one of the things, when people discovered Sumerian, there's this amazing carving on a rock. There's 1,400 foot above the desert, this cliff. 500 feet up the rock, some guy called Darius the Great decides to have like some stuff written. And he has it written in 3 languages. And the top language, they managed to get up to the bottom 2. This guy called Sir Henry Creswick Rawlinson. Hey! Got up there, he got 500 feet up above the desert on this narrow ledge with a ladder. And he climbs up the ladder with his notepad and pencil, and he's sort of leaning against the wall, copying all this stuff down so that he can bring it down and translate it. You imagine that? They couldn't get right up the top, he couldn't get to the last one, so for 2 or 3 years they couldn't translate that. And eventually this young lad from Afghanistan comes up and scrambles up like Gollum and knocks a peg in, scrambles across the top script, and they manage to get all of this stuff down. And it's only then that they realise that they're dealing with this. I can't remember why I'm telling this story.
The old Bible reference.
The old Bible, oh, that's right, the Bible reference. Yes, Rawlinson, it does happen to me later on in the night, I start wandering on. Rawlinson, they weren't happy with Rawlinson just doing this 3-way translation because nobody else had done it. And eventually they came across a Sumerian vase that had what looked like 3 languages on it. So what they did was they copied the vase, sent it under sealed copy to a bunch of people that had signed the Official Secrets Act and they trusted it or whatever, and got them all to send their translations back under sealed cover. And all the translations came back the same, so they go, hey, wicked, we discovered the Sumerians, we discovered the people who built those bloody cities who we've been ignoring them for so long. And the thing is that Rawlinson, having done all that work, then went to the Royal Geographical Society to present a paper on it. And his paper was really good, but he had to bluff some of it. He had to bluff this thing called a king list, because the Sumerians were massive listers of things, and they had these big lists of kings. And he actually used a Greek king list, which had come from Sumer originally via Babylon, to bluff his way through. And fairly quickly afterwards, somebody discovered that the king list was wrong, and so they had a good old go at Rawlinson. And this is another thing that happens a lot in academia. You get basically what's a really excellent piece of work, but it's got a couple of weaknesses in it. And the old people will pick on the weaknesses and tear the young person apart, and his work won't find its way into the kind of canon for 50 years. What's amusing about Rawlinson was if he'd used the king list in the Old Testament, he'd have been absolutely bang on.
But it's like a lot of things in the Old Testament and New Testament that have like books by women and things that have been just overlooked and
Yeah,
the New
yeah,
Testament
all the
or
best
the
stuff,
others just
all the
look at
best
it,
stuff's
you know what
not
I
in
mean?
the Bible. They kept it out.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not being. You know what I mean?
What was, did you mention the Jerusalem Bible? Was it?
Yeah, that's the one. If you want to, the thing is that I always used to, being an English graduate, I always used to read the King James version, or the Authorised version as it's called, because it's got beautiful language in it. You know, whither thou goest, I will go, whither thou diest, I will die, and there will I be buried, and all of that. And it's great, but they don't call it the Authorised version for nothing. Because they don't want you to know the unauthorised bits, and because it's a version, not a translation. If you want to read the Bible as a proper translation or close translation to the Aramaic, you want to get the Jerusalem Bible, which was translated early in the 20th century by a handful of Jesuit priests. So you come across men ejaculating like stallions and stuff like that. I'm glad you remember that. And quite a lot of other stuff. But also, that Bible also gives you all the proper names for the towns, all the modern names for the towns. And it also points out things that happen twice. So it points out that at some point Joseph gets thrown down the well once, but he gets rescued twice. Yes? And has anybody noticed that Adam and Eve get created twice in Genesis? No.
But if you look at that,
There's a point where he creates them both together, and then a point where he creates one after the other. One point he calls them both Adam, the other point he calls them Adam and Eve, and it's because there's a kind of earlier version and a later version, and the editors haven't redacted. So there's quite a lot of these interesting factual things in the Bible. Then there's all that weird stuff of the barren women and the swapping around of the anybody remember the swapping around of the inheritances? When Jacob and Esau, is it? One of them sticks his fist out the womb and has a red ribbon tied around it, comes back in, and the other one's born first. But the one with the red ribbon inherits all the stuff. And the one where Jacob pretends to be Esau, their dad's dying, and Esau, the one that smells of a goat, is their dad's favourite. But Jacob sends Esau away and dresses himself up in goat skins and gets his dad's blessing. So he gets the inheritance, not the guy that should have got it. And that keeps happening. And you keep getting barren women like Sarah.
The resurrection in the Bible, if you read, from what I understand, which never gets mentioned, is it wasn't just Jesus who was supposedly resurrected, which I don't believe. But loads of other people came back from the dead and started wandering around town at the same time. That's in the Bible, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that
and
in
the King James? In all the versions.
Right, I hadn't noticed that. I don't spend a lot of time with the New Testament. I like to get it, that smacks too much of blood sacrificing calendar.
Yeah, relatives came back from the dead and started wandering around.
Yeah.
Lazarus was one.
Sorry?
Lazarus was one.
Well, that was, yeah.
Come forward.
Yeah.
But at
Any
the
more
same time,
questions before we wrap it up?
Yes.
I think